If you're not doing these 10 things, you may be missing out on maximizing your health potential. Now, you see, over the past few years, I've been trying to optimize my health as much as I possibly can. And that's mainly been for athletic performance, health in general, and also longevity. Now, what I found over the past few years is that there are about 10 really essential things that you guys need to be following if you want to maximize your health. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer that I'm not an expert in this field. I do not want you to take everything I say word for word, as I can definitely get things wrong. Now, moving on to the first tip, it's going to sound like a mouthful, but it's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. In simple terms, it's the calories you're burning when you're not exercising. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because when you look at the blue zones, which are the places, regions that live the longest, some areas in Italy, for example, they're not necessarily doing loads and loads of exercise, doing weight training, sprinting, high intensity exercises. But what they're doing is they're moving around throughout the whole day. And the best way you can do this is by setting yourself step goals. So I would say 8 to 12,000 steps is a reasonable amount. So the way you can do this is, for example, getting a watch. I personally track my steps. I do about 15,000 a day, but you can also do it on your phone for free. So I definitely recommend you do that to ensure that you're not sitting down loads. A second way that you can ensure that you have high calorie burn when you're not exercising is investing in a standing desk. Now, as you can see, I've got a standing desk here. I've had it for about 6 months and it's definitely helped me. Not only in burning more calories than if I would be sitting down, but also preventing and helping my back and hip problems. I had a hip surgery about a year ago now, and my hips are just constantly tight, and I find it really helps just to have good posture and prevent that tightness that I usually get after sitting down for a long time. Moving on to the next tip is your environment. So I was using normal shower gels like everyone else was, and when I was in the shower, I was just thinking, and I was just reading all the chemicals on the shower gels. And because I already knew that, sometimes in the food that we're eating, in the ultra processed foods, there's loads and loads of chemicals, and a lot of people will say that's bad. So I was just thinking to myself, surely all these chemicals in our shower gels are also bad for us. So I did a bit of research, and I found that there could potentially be chemicals in the shower gels and all the creams we're putting on our bodies. They could have chemicals that are endocrine disrupting, which basically means that they're going to disrupt your hormones. And obviously, most people watching this video, you're probably pretty health conscious and you want to optimize your health. So I would definitely recommend using an alternative option and replacing them with more organic and natural products. I personally removed all the shower gels from my house after I figured out that research and saw a lot of people saying online that they could potentially be harmful for your health. Now, what I've also done is removed all the plastics from my environment, because I found out recently that all the food containers that I've been using could be also harmful to my health in terms of their hormone disrupting properties, but also they can put you at a higher risk of diseases and cause diseases such as cancer potentially. So I thought to myself, I'm going to optimize my health, so I need to get rid of this. So all I did was replace all my plastic containers that I put my food in, which would have been leaching microplastics into my food, which I would have then been consuming, and it would have adversely affected my health. The third thing is phone usage. People use their phone for an average of 4 hours a day, which over a lifetime equates to around 10 years. 3 main reasons why I think that it's going to be harmful to us. Number one is because when you're online, and you've probably heard this before, you're looking at all the people who are most likely doing better than you in a field that you're passionate about. So for me, for example, I'm interested in fitness, getting good physique, and I'll see people online my age or even younger with way better physiques than me. And consciously, I'll probably be thinking, that they put a lot of effort in, well done to them, I respect that. But subconsciously, I'm going to be comparing myself to them, and it's going to increase my likelihood of depression. It's going to make me more anxious and more insecure about my own self, my own body, which is obviously not it's not optimal for your mental health. So the quote that I always use is, comparison is the thief of joy. When you're comparing yourself to loads of people online, it is going to affect your health negatively. Another reason, and the main reason in my opinion, is that it's taking away time from way more important things, like spending time with your family, friends, or just doing anything that's productive, that you could be learning something, when in reality you end up deciding to spend your whole time just scrolling on TikTok, sending pictures on Snapchat, which I think is an absolute catastrophe that so many people are doing that. Now moving on to the third reason, which is a biochemical reason. That's a bit more technical, but I'm sure you guys will get your head around it, as I'm hopefully going to explain it in a simple way. And all it is basically when you go to sleep, and what most people do is they get in bed and they scroll for hours and hours and hours. And the blue light that is being emitted from your phone and getting into your eyes is going to disrupt your melatonin production. So all that is the chemical that is going to help you sleep. And if blue light is disrupting that chemical, sleep is going to be affected negatively. Now, one thing you can do is change your phone screen light to red, which is going to diminish the amount of blue light that could be going to your eyes and affecting your sleep. However, I think the best thing to do is potentially get some meditation in and then just doze off to bed, because sleep is extremely important. Now moving on to number 4, cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone we produce when we are stressed, and it is so essential that you manage it. Having super high cortisol throughout the course of your life is definitely going to reduce your life expectancy, be in a bad state of health, much more likely to get disease, and it's just something that you definitely don't want. The ways that you can control this: number 1 is meditation, number 2 is diet, and number 3 is exercise. I'm going to go into more detail into diet and exercise later on in this video. The main thing that I want to focus on is that, of course, I know there's a lot of people out there who definitely have more stresses than me, but what I think is important is getting into a mindset where you're not looking at a group of tasks that you have to do and thinking, I have to do these things, but rather I get to. So for example, if I've got loads of homework to do, I'm probably going to be thinking automatically, oh, I have to do all this homework, it's so boring, I have to do it. But rather, if I get into a mindset that I get to, if I think about the people out there who don't even have access to schools, it shifts my mindset to one that's going to help me increase the likelihood of getting that work done and doing it in a way that is going to make me less stressed. Now moving on to the next thing, which I don't think is spoken about enough in the health industry, and that is having hobbies. You see, throughout the whole course of my life, I've always had a passion and something that I wanted to do. And I do understand that not everyone has that. So I definitely recommend you go out there and figure out what you could be passionate about by simply just signing up to things, going to tour days, or just anything you can get your hands on and sign up to that you think you could potentially be passionate about. Do it. Now, I'm going to be biased and say sports are the best hobby you can have, since health is not only your physical health, but it's also your social and emotional/mental well-being. And by doing a sport, you're going to be tackling all those 3 areas. Obviously physical, because you're most likely to be running around and moving a lot. Social, because chances are you're going to be with other people, especially if it's a team sport. Mental aspect, you're going to be releasing endorphins such as serotonin. So I definitely think sport is the best hobby you can have. However, I think the most important thing is just doing what you enjoy the most. Because once again, we spoke about cortisol. By doing something you enjoy is going to reduce your cortisol levels. It's going to make you a happier person in general. So I really recommend that you guys take up a hobby that you're going to enjoy. Now moving on to number 6. As I said, I'm definitely not an expert on this. However, these are the 3 supplements that I find absolutely essential and that I take on a day-to-day basis. Number 1 is vitamin D. Now, a lot of people are below optimal or even deficient vitamin D levels, which is detrimental to your health. Vitamin D is so important for many bodily processes. It's important for your hormones, it's important for bone health. And if you want to be a guy with high testosterone, you want to be able to put on muscle mass quickly, you want to have high libido, you need to be taking vitamin D. Secondly is taking magnesium. Now, because of the soil depletion, which is basically the idea that we're losing minerals from the soil, which means we're getting less of it into our diet. And magnesium is one of the key minerals that we need, especially for sleep and testosterone production. So what I do is about an hour before sleep, I'll take my magnesium supplement, and it is said that this is going to improve your sleep as it's going to put your nervous system in a more relaxed state. And lastly is creatine. So I'm someone who goes to the gym a lot, does a lot of sports. Creatine is essential for me to take, and it definitely improves my athletic performance, because that one last rep in the gym, you're much more likely to get it if you're taking creatine. I also recommend it for your cognitive function, which is basically just how well your brain works. Now, there are studies to suggest that creatine is going to help your memory and also just your focus. So for those people going to work, I definitely recommend you take creatine if you want to enhance your focus. And I would also recommend anyone to take it, since it doesn't cost very much and it's simply just going to be improving your performance. Now moving on to number 7 is saunas. Now, when I first started doing them, I didn't really know the health effects. I just knew some of the people I knew were doing it, and I thought it would be a fun thing to try. And I found a few interesting things. In the sauna, your blood vessels are going to vasodilate, which basically means they're going to widen. Therefore, more oxygen is going to flow to your muscles, which means that, as I said, you're going to recover quicker. And as someone who goes to the gym and does lots of sport, finding out that it increases your muscle recovery was a great find for me. And now I'm doing it about 3 to 4 times a week. A second thing that I found is that in Finland, the people who are doing lots and lots of saunas showed a correlation of living a lot longer, further motivated me to continue using saunas. And the most important thing was that it helps me de-stress loads. Now, one problem that I think we have in this generation is that no one can just sit down and let themselves be in their own thoughts, think about future goals, future plans, anything you're striving for. And I think that's a great thing that we're missing loads of. Moving on to number 8, there's so many people out there telling you to do carnivore, vegan, a keto diet, whatever it is. There's a lot of information out there telling you to do these specific diets and that you just have to do them, and that's the way humans eat. Now, I'm not going to make an opinion on any of these diets simply because I don't know enough. All I'm going to do is tell you what I do with my diet at the moment. Firstly is I get enough fruit in. I eat about 4 to 5 fruits a day, and what I found out recently is that, not all fruits are necessarily super healthy for you. Throughout the whole course of my life, I thought you can eat as much fruit as you want, it's super healthy, and that was just the way I was brought up. And what I found is that's not necessarily the case. Now, the fruits that you do want to look for are the ones with high fiber content and low sugar, as well as being packed with nutrients. You see, some fruit out there aren't necessarily best for your health. For example, dates. They haven't got that much fiber and super high sugar, which means your insulin is going to spike, which is your body's response to receiving a lot of sugar and low fiber. And that is something that you do not want to have if you want to have steady hormone production and just be healthy in general. So you do want to aim for fruits with high amounts of fiber, low amounts of sugar, and packed with nutrients. I would say berries are the best fruit that you can eat. They're packed with antioxidants, and as I said, they fit those 3 requirements of low sugar, high fiber, and nutrients. And I'm not saying to cut out the fruits that are really sugary, for example, like dates and oranges, because they taste great and they're a much better alternative to ultra-processed foods and chocolate and all those kind of things. Moving on to the next thing is vegetables, something that I cut out for quite a while when I was doing carnivore diets and animal-based diets, but I'm not that bothered about it anymore from the research that I've done. As I said, I'm not an expert, but they are packed with a lot of nutrients that are essential for us. So I definitely get as much vegetables as I can into my diet. Anything I eat, I have about 1 portion of vegetables with it. I don't know the exact portions that are optimal for human health. However, that's what I do. Any meal that I'll have some sort of vegetable with it. I would also like to add that although I'm not doing a carnivore diet anymore, I do eat a lot of red meat and eggs. Now, there's a lot of research out there saying that saturated fat is bad for you. I'm personally doing an essay on that at the moment, and I don't believe that that's true, but I'm definitely, as I get older, I'm going to do more and more research on this and hopefully come to a conclusion. But I think red meat, fatty meats and eggs are a great way to get loads and loads of nutrients in, loads and loads of protein, and that's why I eat quite a lot of it. And I think my health has been great so far. Now moving on to protein intake. I would recommend you have about 1 gram per pound of body weight. So me personally, I'm about 70 to 72 kilos, which is around 160 pounds in pounds. So 160 pounds will be 160 grams of protein per day. As I said, I get that from red meat, eggs, and also other sources of lean meats, like fish, chicken. So this is definitely on the higher end for people who are aiming for more athletic performance and, who most likely train quite a lot. However, I'm just going to give this as the general recommendation. It doesn't necessarily have to be this high, and you could go even higher if you like. Lastly, hydration is absolutely essential, especially if you're doing lots of sport and exercise. So what you want to do to find out how much water you need per day is get your body weight in kilos, so mine's 72 kilos, times it by 0.03, mine is about 2.4 litres. Do not be afraid if you're doing loads of sport on a particular day to increase that amount of water. However, as I said, with the protein, this is just a general recommendation and what you should be aiming for on a day-to-day basis. Now moving on to exercise. The general recommendation for optimizing your health is 150 minutes of low to moderate intensity exercise per week. Now, for example, if you're going on a run, you want to be able to hold a conversation with the person you're running with without completely running out of breath. That's the intensity you want to be looking for, 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. And the next thing is for high intensity cardio, you want to be doing about 75 minutes per week. So that's your HIIT sessions, that's your sprints, anything where your heart's really pumping. I would also recommend that you do weight training about 2 times a week, specifically focusing on compound exercises like squats, your bench press. Skeletal muscle is extremely important. A lot of people say it's the 3rd most important thing in health and longevity, because if you, specifically in your thighs, if you don't have much muscle, What happens is when you get older, eventually it's going to get to a point where your legs are going to be so weak that you're going to be much more prone to falling. And unfortunately, when older people fall down, their health a lot of the time just goes downhill from there, and it's going to be hard to get them back to full fitness. So having a strong set of thighs and a strong set of legs is going to be extremely important for living long and healthy life. Now on to the last and most important thing for your health, and what has been described as the best performance enhancing drug by many experts in the industry: sleep. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail on sleep in this video. I think I can better explain it in future videos on how I've optimized my sleep to the best of my ability. However, there's 3 things I want to hone in on in this video. Number 1 is that consistency is so important. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day gets you in that routine so your body knows when you should be feeling tired and when you should be feeling energized to get up the next morning. Secondly is getting morning sunlight. Now, the best thing you can do is just going outside as early as you can in the morning, just getting sunlight into your eyes. This is because it sets your circadian rhythm, which is basically your body's internal clock, which tells you when you need to feel energized and wake up, and when your body needs to relax and fall asleep. Now, I live in England, so half of the time the weather's just completely horrendous and I can't get enough sunlight into my eyes. Now, I could just stay outside for a little longer, but if it's raining, I don't really want to do that. So what I've done instead is bought a 10,000 lux light, which I put on top of my laptop every single morning when there's no sun out, and it's a good replacement for the sun. And once again, taking that in conjugation with vitamin D pretty much imitates the sunlight. Lastly, what I've mentioned before is avoiding blue light before bed. And that is not only from your phone, but also from any other lights in your house. I personally use this little lamp, which I can turn to red light, which also helps with your melatonin production, which I brought up before, which helps, calm your nervous system down and helps you sleep better. And that's another way you can optimize your sleep. That's everything for the video, guys. I hope you found this video valuable, and anything that stuck out to you, you implement it into your routine as I have, and hopefully you find the same results that I have as well. I'd really appreciate it if you dropped a like and subscribe on this video. It really helps support the channel. I hope you have a great day and see you in the next one.